Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Bad 5. As I said before, I wanted to get back in the swing of making videos, so I figured I'd continue on with the series that I have kind of been known for. I've gotten more messages based on this, I think, than any other thing I've ever talked about, which is a little bizarre to me, but, I mean, it was bound to happen. It's a very popular topic here on YouTube and the internet, and lately in real life. So I just want to do a video about like some of the Illuminati stuff. I'm not going to really consider this a part of like my Illuminati is bullshit series. I just want to kind of touch on some things. So I figured I'd do it the old-fashioned way, the way I used to do it, with just a computer screen, lighting my face, have a beer, no edits, and we'll just see how it goes, because there's a few points I want to bring up in this video. By the way, before anyone asks, I drink beer in these videos because I got some comments back in the day, back in like 2009 or 10, where people would insult me because I was drinking like, oh, just drink your beer, basically implying that I'm just numbing myself to the facts around me. Now, one thing I want to bring up is my current job, which I'm doing very well at. I'm making some decent money, and I'm actually pretty happy in my life right now. There's a guy who was in my hiring class, and he started off like we were going around the room saying like our names, and all this nonsense, and something that people may not know about you by looking at you. So, long walks to the beach, all that kind of bullshit. So one guy stood up, his name was Timothy, and basically he was saying like he digs in, he finds the real story. And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, fuck me. He's one of these types. Of course. There's got to be one of them. At least one of them. So, we're on break, and he just busted out. Very, very, very quickly. I couldn't believe it. He just, have you ever heard of the Illuminati? I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I'm like, yeah, I used to believe in all of that. And then I want to be nice. I didn't want to say, and then I grew up and I realized how fucking stupid it was. I didn't say that. I was like, yeah, I used to believe in all that. But then, the more I started looking into it, the more I realized that things don't really add up. Things don't really seem to, like, mesh together. I mean, you have things like the Nazi conspiracy theorists who think that the Jews are controlling the world. You have like the ultra Christian conservative ones who think that Muslims, like, I'm not making this up. I mean, some of you guys may have heard this, that Islam has been plotting to take over the world since 2000 BC. So 2,000 years before Christ. And even though Muhammad came after Christ and talked about Christ, but 2,000 years before Christ, they've been plotting to take over the world. Not Arabs, Islam, Muslims. They have been plotting this. And you also have the other ones who just think it's, X-Files style, where, it's like a small group of elites, things like this. None of these theories really, gel together very well at all. It's just, if you look up this, or if you watch this video, and in fact, that's one thing that annoys me probably more than anything when it comes to conspiracy theories, is when they will send you a video. Watch this proves it. In fact, I want to talk about that. I got one fairly recently. This guy sent me a video. This video was over 2 fucking hours long. And it wasn't even informative. That's the sad thing. Because if it had some, like, real information in there, I would have watched it gladly, even if I had to spread it out. Because there have been a few videos that they're a couple hours long. So as a result, I'll watch like 30 minutes to an hour a night. That's really all I have time for anymore, because I work for a shift, so I have to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. But, so, I'll watch it, spread it out, and then, like, digest the information, think about it, and then, think about how, like, okay, well, does this work? Does this make sense? Things like that. You guys probably do the same thing. It was just 2 hours. And in fact, I got into like an hour, and I'm like, I'm done. Because all it was basically, it looked like very shitty quality, like any kid can do this kind of thing. Quotes, just people saying things, like things about the Iraq War. Not even like damning things. Not even bad stuff. Because there are plenty of bad things you can say about the Iraq War. And no, it was just George Bush talking, or this politician talking. This is not proof. And in fact, this is a guy who sent me, the guy who sent this to me was basically a Nazi type. He said, Zionist government. Zog. Zionist occupied government and all this. And it blows my fucking mind that this is proof. This is proof right here. But that's the thing. People are being spoon-fed this shit, and they're like, oh, yeah. If someone tells them the Zionists are trying to take over, the Jews, who have always been a fucking minority, they're taking over. Oh, yeah, I agree, the Jews, fuck them. Really, the Jews, of all groups, they're the ones that are going to take over. I'd be more inclined to think that, like, the Christians are going to take over, or the Muslims. They're actually big groups, and there's a good chance that they could just get people. There was a guy named Mike Voris, something like that. Coughlin did a couple of videos about the guy. He actually suggested that we should have a benevolent monarchy or dictatorship with a Catholic as the head. Like, you may not like what he's doing, but he's doing the things that are good for you and that God likes. We have Islamic dictatorships, Islamic theocracies. We have these. I'd be more inclined to believe that. You have Israel, which is, they're not like the freest people, but they're not like, under the fucking thumb of the government. But anyway. But these fuckers believe this. Now, unfortunately, in the past, I've talked in my videos about some of my friends who believe in all this. Now, one of these guys, he's the one that got me into all the conspiracy theories. I always thought that, something was afoot. And he kind of got me into all this, and, his family, they're all big on this shit. Like, oh, with this person, he's a member of the Skull and Bone Society and all this. Now, today I'd be like, okay, what does that mean? Well, they're part of a secret society. Okay, and so what? What does that mean? Well, look at the Freemasons. Yeah, the Freemasons are looking... they're letting anyone in now. You can be black or Jewish, which before they would never do that. But now you can just buy your way in. It's a fraternity. But anyway. So, unfortunately, one of the friends I had... because the one guy I talked about, his name's Charles, he got me into all this. We were in a band together, and we had a guitar player named Brian. Now, Brian was always very skeptical about this. But in recent years, he's gotten into it. And I was very disappointed because he was always one of the ones that was, like, very grounded. Like, these people are fucking insane. And so, of course, we knew some drug dealers who were into all this shit. But Brian, he's gotten into it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you've done a complete 180 on this. I'm thoroughly baffled by this because this guy seemed like he was never going to be into it. And I always thought that was cool. In fact, I talk about it with him, and he's kind of one of the people that got me out of this. He's like, look, this is insane. Here are the facts right here. Now, Brian's not like the smartest guy on the planet, but neither am I. But he's not stupid, and I hope I'm not stupid. I really hope I'm not. I've been told I'm not, but anyway. So, some of these guys, like, they'll post things on Facebook, because, I'm friends with them. Like, I like them as people. Like, they're good guys. I like them, and I can talk about certain things with them. But just overall, it gets to the point where I'm like, God damn it, because they want to start bringing up the conspiracy theories. And one thing that bothers me, and it's not just from them, this is not like something new, I've never heard this before, but you'll always hear this same argument about how the mainstream media isn't covering this. Now, we hear this a lot from multiple groups. You hear from the right wing in this country that, the mainstream media is so biased to the left that you need some kind of counterpoint to this. Therefore, we have Fox News. Now, someone brought up a good point recently, and it wasn't like I never came up with this, but it's like, yeah, I'm glad someone else has said it. If there is supposedly a liberal bias. And Fox News is the counterpoint to that. Fox News, people like Bill O'Reilly, especially, he'll say things like, well, Fox News is number one. Yeah, that's because if supposedly there's a liberal bias, it's spread out with a few networks. You guys have one. So, yeah, it would make more sense that all the right wingers are going to go to one fucking channel, even though the real conservatives, the real right wingers that I've known, they're like, no, I watch C SPAN. That's what I want. I want to see what these guys are talking about. And I want to know what the bills are saying and things like this. But anyhow, but you'll a lot of times also hear the same thing from conspiracy theorists. That, the lamestream media, they're not talking about this. So what do? Charles, the guy I mentioned earlier, anytime I ever asked him for proof, like, do you have evidence to back up this assertion? And what would he say? He gave me one site, Infowars. Infowars. That's all you need right there. That is like your one-stop shop for the actual news. You go to Infowars. That's it. You will get the truth there. Even though Alex Jones, and I'm not going to try to do the voice, I've tried to do it in the past and it just fucks my throat up. Years of staying up late, smoking and drinking have taken its toll on my fucking voice and my throat. But anyway, so Alex Jones will basically say, I have government documents that prove this. Which, I mean, he's never given any kind of source, which, okay, in fairness to that point, I can understand. If there is some kind of conspiracy theory, which, I mean, it's weird that, like, they know everything we're doing. Like, they can turn on our webcams and see what we're doing, when we're jerking off, what sites we're looking at, etc., but they just can't figure out the fucking moles. They can't figure this out. Who is it? We don't know. It must be someone like on the X-Files. It must be X or whoever. Deep Throat. It must be one of these guys. Like, they're high up, but they want to get the truth out there. And it's funny because, like, people like Bradley Manning or Chelsea Manning, at the time it was Bradley Manning, leaked some stuff that wasn't even really that damning, wasn't even really that bad. They caught him. Okay. So, people leaking high-level shit. Very, 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 very classified documents. Oh, well, we don't know who it is. But then again, Alex Jones is in the habit of basically making claims like, I said 9/11. Ah, fuck, I can't even do it. I already started hurting my voice just from that. He basically said, I said 9/11 was going to happen and that they were going to blame it on Muslims. Which I tried finding transcripts from the shows before that. And because 9/11, I mean, pretty much right after that, it's like, yes, Islamic terrorists did it. Because Al Qaeda was taking credit for it. So why not just say, okay, well, these guys are taking credit. There's enough proof to say, yes, they did it. But he said this. He said that he said it. But there's no evidence for it. I have seen none. Now, if someone can provide me with some evidence here, I would gladly read it, and I will digest it. I will figure it out. I'll look at it skeptically, of course, but I want to see some actual evidence. Because, of course, they'll say these things. I mean, same with, like, Sandy Hook. Well, how come, like, the Sandy Hook thing, like, that page was made before the Sandy Hook massacre took place? Because it was a web page before that, and then it was changed to something else. Pretty easy explanation here. And then, of course, they don't accept that, And then they were all crisis actors, which, that's one thing I want to bring up. Crisis actors. Because we hear this a lot. In fact, my friends, they have talked about this. They have talked about the whole crisis actor thing. Brian, the guy who used to be a skeptic, he said that one of the kids that was supposedly killed in the Sandy Hook massacre, she was at the White House. You could see her face. That's the same girl. Even though kids, a lot of them look the same. They're just little fucking kids. They have, like, no real features. They don't have, like, weird fucking hairdos or anything. They're kids. But it's the same kid. Really? You think it's the same kid. So the government, for all of their, tenacity, like, they're so fucking brutally efficient with covering up the truth. But they let a kid that supposedly died in this in photos. You really think that makes sense? They have millions of fucking kids in this country, or abroad, but they're going to use one of the kids that supposedly died. You really think that that's going to happen? That makes sense in your fucking mind. That makes sense to you. Well, of course it does. But anyway, the crisis actor thing, this is one of the things that boggles my mind, because with things like YouTube, a lot of us who didn't really have a voice before, we now have one. Also, to that point, a lot of people seem to think that they're more talented than they are. I was this way. I'm not very talented. I'm not. I mean, yes, I won a lot of art awards and shit as a kid, but I'm not an artist. I never really got that good. But I didn't really have an outlet. I didn't really have like a mass market way of showing my talents when I was a kid. But now we have this. Because we see so many people who think that they're going to be actors. They're going to be the next best singer. They're going to be the next American Idol, even though it's in the last season. But you know what I mean. But we see all these people, we'll just bring up American Idol, people who thought they could sing. Like, they thought they were talented. And they're losers a lot of times. They're not going anywhere. But, you don't know what you was talking about. I'm going to be in Hollywood. You're going to be like, man, we was wrong about whoever. How it always happens. YouTube has actually allowed us to see normal people performing in front of us. As a result, there are people who think, I can be an actor. In fact, Nick Bravo, I think it was the channel Nick Bravo Hollywood, like snippets of his acting chops, they were all bad. Whatever, I mean, maybe that's his dream. It's not going to happen, I'm sorry. Or if it does, well, I don't know. I mean, there have been some pretty fucking terrible people out there who've gotten big. Julia Roberts. But, so anyway. They say that these crisis actors, like, there are videos of them trying out for things. Okay, so what? There are probably videos of many of these people playing in bands. Things like this. But you really think that that is their job. Like, their job is to be on the scene and to just basically feign paranoia and fear and all that. Like, that's their job. That's what they do. Like, this is what they're trying out for. Or were they trying out for roles? They didn't get them, but the government snatched them up. You really think that that makes sense? Now, I'm bringing all of this up for a reason, because a lot of times people like me, we're called sheep. Obviously, if you guys are like me, you've been called this many times. You're a sheep. You do whatever. They pull the wool over your eyes. You're nothing to them, because you're easy to convince. You believe the official story, and the official story is never right and all this shit. You believe them. You believe the government. You believe the mainstream media. And that's it. So what do? Well, they turn around and they look for the real stories. They look for the real evidence. The real shit that's happening behind the scenes. So I'm just going to use myself as an example here. When I hear something on the news, I like to look at it skeptically. In fact, I'll bring up a recent article I had read. It was talking about, I believe it was Ben Carson. He quoted Stalin, like basically Stalin had said something along the lines of, to destroy America, you essentially destroy Christianity. You destroy America's spirituality. Now, apparently Stalin had never said that. And the article kept going. It wasn't just like, hey, Stalin never said that. He's a fucking idiot. Move on. No. It actually went on to basically say that Stalin wasn't that bad of a guy. There are historians that are still looking into, like, his legacy, and he actually did some good things. Now, luckily, there are people on the Facebook posting who are basically saying, like, no, Stalin was a mass-murdering fuckhead, and this article is kind of glorifying him. Why would you do that? He killed more people than Hitler did. Which I believe is true. I think Stalin killed, like, around 50 million. Hitler, I think his death count was like around 12. More people now, in fairness to that, Stalin was in power longer, but regardless. But I looked at this skeptically like, no, Stalin was not a good guy. He was not some freedom fighter. Russia was not free. So I looked at this skeptically. I do that with pretty much anything I read. In fact, I have read left-wing articles that accuse George W. Bush of saying that the Constitution is just a goddamn piece of paper. I have no evidence outside of this website to back this claim up, so I'm going to remain skeptical. Could he have said this? Sure, but I have no evidence to believe it. So that's what I do. I look at things skeptically. Does this seem to fit the facts? No? Okay, then fuck it. I don't believe it. Conspiracy theorists, on the other hand, who accuse me of being a sheep, they will buy shit like InfoWars articles. They will believe it. And just essentially say, yeah, see, read this article. This proves it right here. Well, they have no links to any of this shit. Well, no, they have links. They only link to themselves. Or other conspiracy theorist websites. Well, yeah, that's the proof. That's not proof. It's not. These aren't fucking scholars. These aren't like top-level journalists revealing things. If it were, yes, I would be more inclined to believe it. So, with that, I want to ask, who's the real sheep? The people that believe, like, here's the evidence, here are multiple sources showing the evidence, or the people that just say, this website says it. I believe it. But these are the guys, they don't want to, like, beat around the bush. They're telling me the fucking truth. And I'm just going to end on this. It's funny that some of the people who basically say this, some of my friends, they've said this to me, and I've talked to them privately about things like Bernie Sanders. And this is before Alex Jones had said anything really about Bernie Sanders. But they said, yeah, I like Bernie Sanders a lot. You know, I think he represents something bigger than us. Like, he wants to make the future better. And a lot of my friends, they're Star Trek fans, you know, because they want this better future. They want humanity to surpass the bullshit. They want humanity to live up to our real potential. But Alex Jones basically said that Bernie Sanders supporters are fucked in the head. And we don't know what we're talking about. Like, we're completely insane. So, I wonder how they reconcile this whole belief system. That's what I really want to know. You know, and I haven't asked them because I don't really care to hear what they think. Because it seems like they're just going to pull some bullshit like, well, I think he's right based on this, but, you know. No. You're trying to make the world fit around a certain perspective. And that's bullshit. You go with the facts, and that's it. So anyway, got a couple more videos planned in the near future, so be on the lookout for those whenever I get them, hopefully sooner rather than later. So this has been fun, and I'll see you guys next time.